I was watching the cabinet meeting. That was the whole thing on Tuesday, where Donald Trump and his cabinet officials gave sort of updates and took questions from the press. And the thing that stood out to me was that Trump was in a very good mood, as I think he should be, because I've noted this repeatedly. He's had a really good last 2 weeks as president. But there was one question that really annoyed him, and I think that it's important to highlight it. So he was asked about Jeffrey Epstein, the financier, committed suicide in prison, huge conspiracy theories, especially on the right, about whether he actually committed suicide because he was involved in all these sexual trafficking allegations with young women that may have implicated Democratic or other politicians. Okay. Trump is asked about it, and he's clearly annoyed. He's like, why are we still talking about it? I can't believe this, blah, 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 blah. And his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, sort of says the same thing. Like, well, we did this investigation, and we arrived at this conclusion, and, yes, Epstein committed suicide, and no, there was never a client list of people, prominent people who ran in his circle, and no, he didn't blackmail anyone with that information. Okay. I want to talk about Bondi. Okay, so Pam Bondi was the Florida Attorney General. She was the replacement when Matt Gaetz bombed out as U.S. Attorney General. And she, largely just sort of done what Donald Trump has asked. But this Epstein thing, I think, has the potential to really trip her up. So if you remember back, she made a very big deal about releasing the Epstein files in total. Everything was going to be released. That's in part because Donald Trump wanted it, but also in part because the sort of online and conservative radio right really wanted and were convinced that there was a conspiracy here and wanted to expose it. And now that Republicans were in charge, they thought they would. Okay, so she makes this big show of having these, right-wing influencers, for lack of a better word, to the White House. She gives them, this is earlier in the year, she gives them these big binders. We're going to blow this case wide open. There's nothing new in any of the binders. So that was like a Al Capone's vault situation. It was like, oh man, this is gonna change everything. And then it was like literally nothing new, and anything that was new had been heavily redacted and you couldn't do anything with it. Okay, so that got her some negative attention in the right-wing media. But that is nothing compared to what is happening to her now. So in February, she goes on with John Roberts on Fox News. And Roberts says, are you going to release the Epstein client list? And she says, I have it on my desk right now. I'm reviewing it. And yes, we are going to release it. Well, fast forward to this week when the Department of Justice, which is led by Pam Bondi, says, well, we've done this investigation and there is no client list. What? So were you lying then or are you lying now? Which is the point that a lot of conservative sort of talkers are making. And when I say conservative talkers, I'm talking about big people in this universe. We're talking about Steve Bannon, Megyn Kelly, Laura Loomer, Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk. These are big players who are basically saying the White House isn't telling the truth here. Something is wrong. So this is why I think it's a fraught situation for Bondi, because she's botched the handling of the Epstein stuff. Whatever you think. She has said, I thought that Fox News was asking me about the Epstein files broadly, not about a client list, even though John Roberts, the Fox News anchor, very clearly says Epstein client list. She thought she was answering a broader question. Maybe. But the point here is that these people are angry. They've been fed and stoked on conspiracy theories for a very long time. They are not going to simply say like, okay, no problem. Donald Trump says we shouldn't be talking about this anymore. I guess we shouldn't. If anything, in the last 24 hours, the uproar and furor over what Bondi said in February versus what the Department of Justice released earlier this week in terms of the client list has gotten worse. And I think that is a problem for her for two major reasons. Number one, Donald Trump is very careful about making sure he takes care of and feeds that online influencer community on the right. That is, the Bannons, Megyn Kellys, Tuckers of the world broadly. He pays attention to what they think and cares. And they are very up in arms about this. And I don't think at least not based on the evidence I see right now, that they're going to just meekly go away and stop talking about it because Donald Trump said to stop talking about it. The other thing, Donald Trump cares deeply about the Department of Justice. To him, I think the Attorney General's job is the most important job in his cabinet because he thinks the DOJ should work entirely for him and what he wants. And so he has a very close eye on it. Always has. Remember, he got rid of Jeff Sessions very early on when Sessions didn't do what he wanted in his first term. And also James Comey, the FBI director. So he clearly is watching what goes on at the DOJ much closer than he is the average other cabinet department. And that, if you're Pam Bondi, that would worry me because you've got the online right very up in arms over this Epstein stuff. She doesn't have any good answers. And Trump, is watching. So we've only seen one cabinet official resign to date or be fired. Mike Waltz, the national security advisor. That is a slower pace, obviously, than we saw in Trump's first term. I've always assumed, and I think I still assume, if you told me, Chris, if you said tomorrow I woke up and you said, Chris, a cabinet official has been fired, who is it? I still think I would say Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, who, by the way, has not had a great run of late, including Donald Trump overturning the pause on military stockpiles being given to Ukraine that Hegseth put in place. So I still think I would say Hegseth is the most vulnerable. But I do think Bondi is now up there, and it's largely because of her handling or mishandling of all this Epstein stuff. So keep an eye on her, what she says, what Trump says about her, and whether the furor on the online and talk radio right dies down about Epstein or grows. All right, everyone, do one thing for me. Hit that subscribe button. You get free content, and you help me grow as an independent news creator. Take care.